We'll go to the joint meeting of or the special meeting of the Glendale Successor Agency for March 25th, 2014. We have a roll call for the Successor Agency.
Agency members: Friedman.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.
Quintero.
Here.
Sinanian.
Here.
Chair Weaver.
Here. Do we have a report?
The agenda for the March 25th, 2014 special public meeting of the Successor Agency was posted on Thursday, March 20th, 2014 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
And number item?
The item before you is from Director of Economic Development regarding status of long-range property management plan, oral report only.
Mr. Cho.
Yes, sir. Just a very, very brief presentation by way of heads up for next week, when you will be considering the third version of the long-range property management plan as mandated by the Dissolution Act that ended redevelopment. I want to make sure that the agency, Successor Agency, and that the public are understanding that we aren't having to come back for a third time by way of error of the staff or of the Oversight Board or the Successor Agency, but rather because literally the Department of Finance continues to change its mind as to what it wants, because they are indeed making up the guidelines that implement the Dissolution Act as they go. I'll give you an example of what you will see that is different. For example, things that were approved as part of the recognized obligation payment schedule, the ROPS that had been deemed allowable by the state, then are being viewed as not allowed under the long-range property management plan. So things like the Alex Theater, where we have a lease on that property with Glendale Arts for an extended amount of time, and we're being held for public use because they are being used for the public benefit, are being required, or at least being suggested at this point, at this stage, round 3, that we should have them held for future development, meaning that we will sell them at some point. Now, we may sell them to Glendale Arts. We may sell it for $1. We may sell it for $100 million. But the point being that they just want to be able to check the box because they don't have an appreciation for the nuance of the deals that have been made over the last couple of generations here in Glendale or up and down the state of California. They just want to be able to say, from a accounting perspective, that they've somehow lowered the liabilities of the former redevelopment agency. The other one that is looming very heavy is the Lemley Lofts project, whereby we are, as you know, are planning to sell that property. The DDA was approved. The infusion of cash, the $2.6 million that was the contribution to the DDA, was approved as a recognized obligation. And the project itself was approved. The DDA was approved conditioned upon the city making agreements with the other taxing entities, the county, the school district, the community college district, to hold them harmless. We've done that. We've since presented that to the state. The state has now come back and said, well, you have to show us that the liabilities are being reduced. And we're saying, well, they will be reduced upon the sale of the property because we won't own the property anymore, and it won't be a liability on the city's books or the Successor Agency's books. They don't quite get that. They want to see that the liability is somehow reduced now in the interim period. We're having trouble explaining all of that to the staff at the DOF, and so we're continuing to kick it upstairs to the supervisors there at the DOF. However, if after we submit the third round of revisions to DOF that we are not able to secure their acceptance of these projects, we will need, we'll have no other course but to go through the political realm, asking the Successor Agency to work very closely with local legislators, and ultimately, even if that's unsuccessful, to consider litigation. Again, we were told at the front end what to do. We've done that. We're being told at this end to do something else, and it just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to us. I want to provide this update to you by way of forewarning, because as our staff will make the presentation next week, it will sound extraordinarily confusing and to the extent that it doesn't make any sense. It's not because of what it is that we are trying to present to you, but rather we are being told to present to you in order for them to check the box and allow this project to go forward, all of these projects to go forward.
Is there any discussion? This is an oral report only. There's no discussion. How about a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we stand adjourned at 3:17